Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever day it is if you happen to be watching this video. I'm just drinking a little cup of coffee. I just want to put a little video out there on some of my experiences that I've personally had the last few years, so to speak. I've been a student of Hatha Yoga. Most dominantly, I've studied the works of B.K.S. Iyengar. And I've been practicing yoga about going on 22 years. For a living, believe it or not, I am a Hatha Yoga teacher. I teach asanas, the movements and the standing poses. I also practice Pilates. I spent a lot of my life as a rock and roll musician. I got to live in New York, and I was in a band that got signed by Elektra Records. The band made $3 million, I made zero. I got kicked out of the band, actually. And that was an experience that brought me to yoga. I grew up in the Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox Church. My grandfather was a Russian Orthodox priest living in Latvia, and my great-grandfather was a Russian Orthodox priest. 100 years ago, my great-grandfather, with my grandfather and my great-aunts and uncles and my great-grandmother, they survived the Russian Revolution in Russia. These people were badasses. So I have a great spiritual background, and I know the presence of God in my life, and I've certainly fallen from that awareness. This video is dealing with the left-handed path versus the right-handed path. Now, I've seen a lot of things being a yoga instructor, and people think, oh, you're something special, you teach yoga, and they'll bow down to you. It's like, it's kind of interesting. You just say, oh, I teach yoga, and then not everybody, but many people like, oh, wow, they're in awe. So I've had experiences where people have opened up to me and told me things that are like, very interesting. And oh, he's a yoga teacher, he's somebody to hang out with, you know. I'm a very simple man. I'm a pure and I'm a natural man. But I want to give you two experiences. In less than 6 months, I went to a lecture by a man. His name is A.J. Mohan. A.J. Mohan. He was the final student of the great Krishnamacharya, who was the teacher of B.K.S. Iyengar, Pattabhi Jois, Indra Devi, and some other notable yoga instructors. Who took yoga to the West, asana. Mainly they're teaching asana, but there is a spiritual component, of course, to all of this. But in 1 year, within a 6-month period of time, I saw a lecture by the man named A.J. Mohan, and he was discussing the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And A.J. Mohan said that Krishnamacharya rejected the second half of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika because he said the second half of the Yoga Pradipika is the left-handed path. And Krishnamacharya said that to be true and genuine in the practice of spirituality, right-handed path. Now, right hand versus left hand, you're going to say, oh, you're a right-winger, you're a Republican. No, actually the Democratic and the Republican parties are both left-handed path. And then about 6 months later, a friend of a friend, I was hanging out with my very good dear, a mentor, a very good teacher, a brother of mine, and a father figure in many ways. And we visited his friend, and his friend, I'm not going to mention his name because he's alive and he did not put this out openly, but I'm just giving you this information. He is a martial arts master. He toured around the world teaching martial arts, Qigong, and all of that kind of stuff. And he was very close to the Dalai Lama, And this man gained a lot of power. He alleged that he could heal people, he could see into people's minds, he could do various things, he had various powers, he had a lot of money that was coming to him. He could probably charge a great deal for his works and so on and so forth. And he became somewhat of a cult leader, cult mentality. And then he started to have breakthroughs. He even did the, you do the 300,000 to 400,000 prostrations to the Lama. But one day he found out a translation of a particular Tibetan prayer. And it is a prayer to Indra. And then these lamas and these monks in Tibet, they like do 30 or 40 day prayers, and they're praying to Indra. And he was saying that they prayed to Indra to cast her net, her web, across the entire world. And they were asking Indra, send us credulous people, people who have no spiritual background, people who are very naive, people who are seeking spiritual enlightenment, and let them be stuck in your net, and may we then capture them in the net. And then when he was starting to think about that, he started to think, wait a second, there's something wrong here. There's something very, very wrong here. And then he went up to the Dalai Lama, apparently, and said, what is going on here? And then he had a confrontation with the Dalai Lama. And then after he left, he started to get sick. And then he lost all of his powers that he had over people, mind control, and so on and so forth. And so that really was very interesting to me, that I'm starting to think left-handed path versus right-handed path. And as it goes deeper and deeper, there's a lot of information more coming out about this. There's a Rocking Mr. E channel. Check his discussion on right-handed versus left-handed path. Why am I even bringing this up on my channel? Because right now, the world, especially America, which is Babylon, is under a great spell of sorcery. Now, this man who was a student of the Dalai Lama and another Lama up in the Himalayas or in India, he was saying that the Dalai Lama is essentially a sorcerer, and he deals in black magic. The left-handed path is a path that seeks very naive people who lack a foundation, who lack grounding, and the left-handed path is a path of sorcery and black magic. It is a path where they will tell you anything you want to hear. They'll give you a little bit of knowledge, but then they give you false knowledge as well. And it's all about control. It's all about not thy will, but someone else's will subjugated upon you. The right-handed path is the path of those teachers who teach right-handed path. They will give you information freely. Now, if you go to a yoga class, you need to pay for that class. But if you talk to the teacher and you ask information, they will give it to you freely. You can't take advantage of people. You have to be honest. There's a symbol called the yin and the yang, which is a natural law symbol coming from the Taoists. Everyone has seen the yin and the yang. It also means ha is yang, tha is yin. It is a symbol of natural law, natural order. There's masculine and there's feminine. There's inhalation, which is ha, which is yang. There's exhalation, which is yin, which is tha. This is natural law. All creation, every atom, everything is doing this from the top of creation, to the bottom of creation. The left-handed path is the path that the Democrats and the Republicans are on. If you look at the pentagram, for instance, look at the pentagram. Look at the septagram, that's the seven-pointed star. If you look at the police, they invert the pentagram, they invert it. If you look at the military, they invert the pentagram. Once you are under custody of the police, if you're arrested, you have lost your free will. They're telling you blatantly that this inverted pentagram, which is a human being, the head is upside down, it also becomes the goat of Mendez. So, and if you join the military, you've lost your free will, soldier. You have no free will, you've given up all of your free will. The highest medal in the military is an inverted pentagram. That means you are a slave, actually, and you have been subjugated to someone else's will, not thy will. Not thy will. So we're under sorcery, we're under mass deception, and we have to wake up to the right-handed path versus the left-handed path. It's very, very important to start to become discerning and be aware of these things. Because if you're not, you will be led astray, and there's a lot of New Age bullshit out there. For instance, I studied Walter Russell and Leo Russell's work, and I will mention this man, Matt Presti, by name, because he's a false prophet, and he's a very egotistical man. I know him personally, and he burned one of my best friends, and I'm not going to say the name. If you study and you follow, you'll figure out who these people are. But you start to realize that the left-handed path tells you there's no good and no evil. There's no guilt and there's no shame. And the biggest problem that we've been held down with is guilt and shame. We have to overcome our guilt and shame. Well, there's a reason we have guilt and shame. Because we have a conscience. There's a divine entity. There's a creator. There's a God behind all of creation. The divine spirit, which I'll refer to right now as the Holy Spirit, doesn't subjugate itself upon you. We have a conscience. If we don't have conscience, we become a psychopath, a sociopath. Look at Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. These people have caused hell on earth. And look how many people are under their subjugation of sorcery, mind control. Many people are deceived. Wake up to the right-handed path, which is a path of freedom, virtue, non-harm, do no harm. It's the path of conscience, conscientiousness. The left-handed path is do as thou wilt, which is the order of the law, which comes from the Aleister Crowley. And the Beatles put up Aleister Crowley as one of their heroes. John Lennon said, to become a Beatle, you had to become a bastard. The Beatles and the whole 60s, there's so much information. Check out the work of Jan Irvin. I don't agree with him 100%, but he goes over some very deep and profound information. Also, I want to get into ayahuasca. I had a girlfriend who protected me from taking ayahuasca maybe 12 years ago, and I thank God for that. I met a man who studied all the yogas. He studied with Rodney and so on. I'm not going to say his name, but I'm a student of the Shroud of Turin, and I think it's very, very fascinating. He was in my living room, and I was showing him this prop. Let me show you. This is called the Simhasana bench. It is a prop by B.K. Iyengar. And he also called it the heart bench. I'm going to show you my other heart bench. If you put two of these together, I studied the work of Frank Chester, who discovered the geometry of the heart, which is the greatest discovery probably of our modern time. I don't know if I can pick these up, but you can see. I put it on my lap. You look at the Simhasana bench, also called the heart bench. It becomes a bell when they're together. Can I do these things? Do you see that? It's a bell. So the work of the geometries of the yoga props of B.K. Iyengar align to the work of the heart that Frank Chester has done. Anyway, that's a little bit of a digression. But anyway, this friend of mine, I was showing him this yoga prop, which is a Simhasana bench, heart bench. We're in my living room. Actually, I have an image of the Shroud of Turin in there. But anyway, this man, he wanted me to take ayahuasca. He was saying, oh, I've got a great girl, and she's the shaman. She's only 19 years old, but you'll come and you'll sing. I'm a singer. I sing and I play guitar. I love to harmonize. He said, come to our gathering, you'll love it, and then you'll take the ayahuasca, and then this, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not going to say his name, but I'm going to tell you this is exactly more or less what he told me. Take the ayahuasca, and then you'll see the snake goddess, and then she'll come into you, and then she'll take over. She'll control you, she'll heal you, and she'll make everything all right. She'll make everything okay. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is pretty freaking crazy. And I noticed this man, and he's done all the yogas, and he's a very, very, very egotistical, actually. And I would call him, and he'd say, oh, I'm depressed. I haven't called you back for a few days because I've just been depressed. I've been depressed, and oh, I'm so depressed, and oh, you know, like that. You know, he's lost his manliness. He's not a man. He has no strength. He's too much yin, not enough yang. And I'm thinking, wait a second. This snake goddess from ayahuasca comes into you, controls you, and is going to make everything all right. And this man, when he's not on ayahuasca, he's depressed, majorly depressed. Majorly depressed. And the snake goddess comes in and she's going to make everything all right. And I looked at him and I'm like, this is a fraud. Do not take ayahuasca. It is a left-handed path. The shamans in these jungles, in these forests, these native peoples, they hate Western people. They hate them with a passion. And all of these drugs, these psychedelics, you don't want to do any of this stuff because it will delude you. It might show you certain things, but ultimately you will be deluded, you will lose your mind, and you will have no foundation. You'll become too vata, you'll become too airy, you'll be in your brain, and your nervous system is going to be shot. Also, there was another man who did ayahuasca, and he was at my friend's house, and he saw this snake, and this man went nuts. He flipped out. He was almost on the verge of psychosis. So the right-handed path is the path of virtue, of sobriety. Now you can have coffee and tea. You can have a little coffee. But the left-handed path is the path of subjugation, control. And you look at what's happening in California. The governor of California is forcing vaccines on children. Now, there's so much work done on vaccines. Do not get any vaccines because that is a left-handed path sorcery. Anyway, I've kind of dallied. This is a long video, longer than I wanted it to be. It's basically off the top of my head. I basically said what I wanted to say. Oh, the one thing about this friend who saw the Shroud of Turin picture in my living room, he sat and he turned around, he looked at the Shroud of Turin that I have up there. He went like this. Didn't even say anything, he got up. And then he walked into my kitchen. I thought that was very interesting. Anyway, bless you guys. Maybe I'll see you next time.